Well, a very good morning to you once again, Maroom, coming to you live on the lawns of the Union Buildings here in Pretoria, the 2015 commemoration, of course, of those who died on and off duty in the South African police service. I tell you, this honor is about to get underway at the moment. You would know the staggering numbers of on and off duty police officers that have been killed in the South African police service, and tribute is being paid to them here today to say basically thank you for your service. A lot has been done also to try and support the families of those who have been killed on and off duty. That support continues to come in for the families of those who remain behind. And just to chat a bit more about what kind of support the South African Police Service gives the families of those who have been killed in the line of duty. I'm joined now by Minister Nhleko, who is the Minister of Police. Minister, thank you very much for your time this morning. Certainly, you know, a very sad occasion, but momentous in the sense that we get to thank these fallen heroes within the South African Police Service for them serving and protecting.
No, the members of the police service, they make a fundamental contribution to the existence of our society. They make a fundamental contribution to issues of peace and stability in our society and so on. So what we then do on our side, on our side as the police service, is the whole question of providing a counseling service also to survivors of the deceased, particularly because in most cases they go through the trauma of the violent nature of crimes that would have been committed against their family members who happen to serve the South African Police Service. But also there's the question of looking at the beneficiary kind of structure. In other words, they also have children. So the question of the education trust and support for their respective families, particularly children in that regard.
I understand that significance of strides have also been made with regard to police officers perhaps who have died in car accidents, the direct link that the South African Police Service now has with the Road Accident Fund, so that they're also able to claim at the Road Accident Fund, so that the families, even though affected, at least can continue with their lives.
Yeah, no, exactly that. That's why I'm saying we will continue, and we still do, continue to refine the benefit structure to look at the maximal benefit levels to members of the police service, particularly when they're out of service and having been deceased and so on.
But Minister, what can be done about this onslaught on South African members of the South African Police Service? We're sitting at a staggering number of 58 until the end of August. Certainly a large number. What plans are being put in place to deal with this issue?
For starters, we need the activation of members of our society around the educational aspects. In terms of, because what we do need to understand fundamentally is that a policeman or woman is at the service of the South African public. So he or she services the public interest. In a sense, police men and women are ours and they are us in a way. So that's what we need to understand. So if you kill a policeman or you kill a policewoman, basically you're killing yourself. And that's what society needs to begin to understand on the one hand. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of mobilizing and galvanizing a societal view and activation in the direction of the need to protect themselves. And the one way of protecting ourselves as a society is ensuring that we stop the scourge of police killings and so forth.
You know, Minister, in speaking to the Institute for Security Studies, there seems to have been a view that criminals believe that they are better equipped and perhaps better trained. Is it perhaps an issue of police training, and this notion perhaps that these criminals, as we understand, most of these police officers have been killed in an ambush. They believe they're better trained. If they come in a gang, certainly the South African Police Service members don't stand a chance. What are the exact issues contributing to this?
Look, that's a view, but the fact of the matter is that it's a trend that is developing, and therefore it requires a thorough study and research, for an example, in terms of establishing the critical factors that inform the occurrence and the manifestation of this particular problem, then we can be able to effectively sort of pronounce ourselves on it. At this stage, it's merely speculation to think that it's because criminals are well equipped and we are not, or they're better trained and we are not, and so forth. Essentially, I don't think it's largely about that, but I'm also responding to a speculated point here in a sense. But it's a matter that requires quite a serious, closer sort of study for an example, in terms of the trends. I mean, you will find, for an example, that some of these incidences are completely isolated. You know, they're just chance taking and so on, and they so happen. But some of them, in certain areas, are beginning to show that you have some degree of organizedness, whether it's your number gangs and whatever and so forth, and therefore that in itself requires further following up, but also looking at issues of institutional reform on our side and better ways of equipping ourselves. Of course, there will be ongoing kind of concerns. But the biggest point is educating members of our society to understand that policemen and women, they serve us, and therefore they are there for our best interest and so on.
Certainly, thank you very much for your time. The Minister of Police, Nhleko, talking about what needs to be done to deal with this scourge, this onslaught on police members in South Africa. But we'll take a short break here on SABC News. We'll come back to you straight after this. Certainly, we'll bring you much more here from the lawns of the Union buildings. We're also expecting President Jacob Zuma to give a keynote address where he will denounce certainly the killing of the men and women in blue.